Hello, you're going to start today by doing this activity here where I'd like you to write out this paragraph. I don't normally get you to write out long paragraphs of information, but it is particularly useful, and I'd like you to fill in the key words from the sidebar there into the gap. And this is just recapping your work from last lesson. So press pause and give this a go, please. Let's go through the answers and see how many you got right. Fill in any that you got wrong or you missed out. In the past, roles in the family were more segregated. This means there was a clear division of labour between what the man did and what the woman did. However, over time, roles have become more integrated, which means they are shared between the adults. Man used to be seen as the breadwinner, while women stayed at home and did the childcare, cleaning and cooking. Recent studies agree that roles are still not equal. Oakley argued women complete a dual burden. They do most housework as well as paid work. And Dunscombe and Marsden argued women do the triple shift, which is housework, paid work and emotional work. In the 1980s, Edgell found that men made the most important decisions. The Times Use study of 2006 found most housework was still done by women, 21 hours for women compared to just 12 for men. Other studies challenged this. Dermot found men wanted to be more involved in childcare and helped with housework. And Parr found that women had more control over money. So complete any that you missed there. Ensure that you've got that all looking shipshape and correct. Useful to revise from later. Title for today's lesson then. How far are roles shared in the home? Write that into your book with today's date. We're looking at this idea today of a symmetrical family. So, although studies have shown roles have changed or stayed the same, most sociologists still talk about a study done by two sociologists called Wilmot and Young, and it was called the Symmetrical Family Study. It's very, very important. They studied how family had changed in structure and role over the past 200 years. So before we go any further, I want you just to think and jot down, what do you think a symmetrical family is and what makes you think that? Okay, so on the next slide in a moment, what you're going to see is a grid, and that grid is something you're going to draw into your books and then you're going to complete with the information on the next slide. So these next couple of slides give you information about Wilmot and Young's case study around symmetrical families. And essentially, they said that the family today is now a symmetrical family. So a really important term for you to understand. And what you need to be thinking about is how far you agree that this is the correct view of the family. How far do you think this is accurate, that families are symmetrical? And why might the working class, the poorer people, not want to live like the rich people? You'll see in the study that they talk about how things are different in the working class and the middle classes, for example. So this is the table you need to draw in your books. You'll see that Wilmot and Young talk about 4 stages of family life in a cycle, that how things have changed. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about, for each of the stages, I just want you to jot down what is the name of the stage, what the family structure was like, what roles were done in the family, and any more detail about how those roles were shared, for example. And you'll see very clearly on the next slide there are 4 stages. So you will be doing that and filling in the table for 4 stages. So just spend a moment drawing that into your books. You'll only need 1 page for that, so split your book into 4 quarters. This is all the information then. So they explored the development of the family in Britain from the 1700s to the 1970s. And over that time, they said there were 4 stages to how families and family types and family behaviours have progressed. So stage 1 is the pre-industrial family. Stage 2 is the early industrial family. Stage 3 is the symmetrical family from the 1970s. And stage 4 is the future. Now remember, what they considered the future is now very much for us the current, or even slightly the past. So the future means after the 1970s. And it's quite interesting for you now to be thinking about, was their prediction at that point in the 1970s correct? So I'm not going to read all those things through, but they are the things you need to read and put into your table. So now you've got more information, you can now consider these 2 questions from the earlier slide. Do you think this is accurate, what they said, particularly if you look at stage 4, where they were predicting the future, but for you, now you know whether things turned out like that or not. And then just have a think again about why the working class wouldn't like to live like the rich. So finish the lesson up by having a think about those things. Please jot that into your book, and thank you for listening.